All right, everybody. Welcome to third episode of the Whatever's Biting podcast. This is a monthly episode. We talk about things that we're catching or not catching, and we're going into March, so I'm excited about that. First off, I'm John Dalton, and my YouTube channel is Creek Fishing Adventures.
And I'm Ethan Dobetter, and my YouTube channel is Fish Anything.
And we're a couple. If you don't know who we really like multi-species fishing, but we would just like fishing, bank, kayak. Do you have a boat? Do you boat fish any?
I do paddleboard, canoe, kayak,
Oh
and then
yeah.
if someone gives me a place in their boat, I'll do it. But I do not currently own a boat.
I've never done canoe fishing. I've seen you do that. I need to do it. I need to add that to my list of things that I've done.
Well,
So
you
I'm,
have
I'm going to add canoe
expanded
fishing.
kayaks, right? So I mean, you probably should add a canoe at some point.
Yeah, I just traded for another kayak recently, and I did a river float that if you haven't seen, it should be coming up really soon. It was my first river float of the year. But real quick, we set a few goals on our last episode. We were talking about February, and I had a goal to go catch yellow perch, and also I talked about how I hate February fishing. Well, I got some good news. I caught yellow perch, did a catch and cook. It didn't go great, but it worked. And I had, as far as fishing goes, one of the best fishing Februaries I've ever had.
Well,
I
that's
did
what I
it.
like to hear, John.
Yeah, it was. I was surprised. I caught fish off the bank. I caught fish off my kayak, and then I was sick for like 10 days. So I'm like, I missed out on a bunch, but I had some really good fishing days in February, which is very surprising to me.
Well, that's good. And can you elaborate on the it didn't go so well when you're talking about the yellow perch catch and cook? As in the fish didn't taste good, or the fishing wasn't as good as you thought?
The fishing was great. I went to a lake. Me and Alex Rudd. We were gonna camp overnight, catch some yellow perch, cook them for that supper. And so I went out there, and the wind was blowing like crazy. And if
Mhm.
you've ever ultralight fished and the wind's blowing, it is very hard to feel bites. And perch are just they snap at your lure. So I only end up catching. First off, I caught some, didn't think I needed them. Then when it was time to start catching them to keep them, I was putting them in my net, and I had three of them jump out of the net because there was a hole in my net.
Oh, geez.
And I got it on video. I didn't. I was like, I was so confused. I looked. I'm like, I know
Don't
I
you
had more
do this
fish in
for
there.
a
Like, and
living?
then I looked back on the video. They were squirming out through a hole.
I don't understand it. Isn't this your job? You
Yeah, you think I could do better?
well, actually, it's funny. This transitions quite well into what my goal was. So my goal a month ago was to catch some fish on a little spoon, do some spoon fishing, and ideally, I wanted to catch yellow perch. So um, I can proudly say that I was able to do that. I didn't catch a lot of them, but I caught a few. And I think the reason this transitions well is because you mentioned ultralight fishing in the wind can be challenging. And John, I told you last time, you gotta get some of those Castmaster spoons. Kind of wish you would have done it because it's great for when it's windy. Depends on how windy we're talking, depends on the water depth, but generally speaking, what I really like about those ultralight spoons, specifically Castmaster, is they've got a quick rate of fall. So even if you're using one of those little 1/12 ounce, if you're using light line, they can get down to the bottom pretty quick, and you can even fish them effectively in the wind. So I wish you would have had a few of those with you because I think you would have found that they're quite great lures for that situation.
I
Um,
did throw one of those micro chatterbaits, like the
yeah,
tiny ones, and I put a little Bobby Garland on it,
yeah,
and I caught several on that.
really,
And till
they're
I,
pretty aggressive then.
yeah, they were. There's just a lot of them. There, I talked to a guy. They caught 200,
Oh my
and
gosh, man, I want to fish this place.
yeah. If you ever come down here, I'll definitely take you there. It's a really cool place. They were in a boat, and there was like three of them, but they were fishing with worms, and that's what
Yeah,
most people do.
that
And
sounds
if
like
I'd have known
fun.
it was going to be that windy, I would have just brought worms. You could have caught so many more. But if
Yeah,
you're fishing with little lures, it can be tough. The way
yeah.
they bite.
Well, I gotta say, so for February for me, so that was kind of like my main fishing trip, but I have fished a little bit more. I would say that I'm starting to pick up steam, and the weather's starting to get really good. So even though I haven't been able to fish a ton, it's mostly just because of my own time constraints. It's not necessarily weather getting in the way as much anymore. So all of that is to say that I look forward to March personally, and I think kind of from here on forth between March and April, things are going to start picking up quickly, and I am very, very excited.
Do you fish a lot in the evening? Is that when you have time more?
I have a feeling I'm going to have to do some more evening fishing this year. I typically don't do a lot of evening fishing just because I'm so tired by the end of the day,
Yeah.
just kind of like worn down. But with just kind of the limited time that I have these days, I feel like evening fishing is definitely going to be in the play this summer specifically. I feel like there's so many times where it's like, hey, could I sneak out for an hour or 90 minutes and catch a few fish at a pond? Probably. And so I think I'll probably have to do that a little bit more this year.
I know a lot of people, and I did the same thing when I did when I used to work a regular job. You really look forward to this time of the year when the days get longer because you can actually, if you get off at 5, like a lot of people do, you can go fish for an hour or 2 hours. Where and in the winter you really don't have any time for that. So that's that's a big thing a lot of people are looking forward to, and even for people like me, like I'm not a morning person at all. So and I do so much creek and river stuff where the afternoon, the middle of the day, afternoon is the best time for fishing for me.
Mhm.
I feel like I go to so every once in a while I'll do an early morning creek or something like that, and it's tough. Like it's different than lakes. If you're a lake guy, you want to be out there cracking on. The streams I do, they're cold in the morning. A lot of times let them warm up a little bit, but just of course longer days means more sunlight, and sunlight really affects everything, gets it all going. But let us, speaking of getting things going and also perch fishing, we got some news from the pan fishing world, and this is something that we want to kind of cover. Last week we talked about a state record rock bass that was caught, and if you hadn't heard about that one, it was pretty interesting. But today we have a state record yellow perch that was caught in February in Georgia. Did I send this to you? If not,
You did. You
do you
did send
remember?
it to me.
Because I got some trivia for you. I got some, if you want to guess some weights.
Oh, well, I don't know, hopefully the questions you're asking, but I did see the article and I briefly looked over it. So I know a little bit about that fish.
Okay. Well, Mr. Emerson Mulhall, he caught a 2 pound, 9 ounce, 16-inch yellow
Jeez.
perch. He was bass fishing, and because he looks like a young guy, and he hooked into it. He was like, "What do I have?" And then
Yeah.
he saw it, and he called his dad, and his dad said, "Take it and get it uh, weighed at like a scale." And it was, I think it was like 2 or 3 ounces over the previous state record.
That's wild. Honestly, I
So
didn't even, number one, I didn't even really know that Georgia had yellow perch. I guess it makes sense that there's probably a few down there. But a 2 pound, 9 ounce, I think it said, and 16-inch. I mean, that's massive. Like, that's a really nice fish. Like, I wouldn't expect that the quality of yellow perch, like, to be that size down there, I suppose.
well,
Um,
yeah.
but it goes to show I don't know a lot about yellow perch probably in that part of the world.
North Georgia is totally different than it was in Cummings, Georgia, which I think it's above Atlanta. But like the Atlanta up part is so different than southern Georgia.
Yeah,
Not to say that there's I mean, I've seen yellow perch that are caught in more warmer areas too. So it's kind of funny, but there's a
yeah.
lot in the North Georgia mountain area and there. And I think that's the area this was. And some of those lakes are really deep and cold.
Did it say
This
what he
guy was
caught it
on a
on?
boat.
You know?
Do what?
Did it say what he caught it on? I didn't catch that.
I didn't see that.
I bet it was a drop shot. I'm willing to bet it was drop shot.
I caught. We'll get to it later, but I caught 3 in my tournament Saturday on a crankbait.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
but we can't get to that yet. That's later on. When we talk about something. Our what we caught recently. So real quick. Um, in where is it at? 1947, George Slutter caught the state record for Michigan. Do you know what it is? Yellow perch. How much did it weigh? I don't have a
Well,
length on it, just a weight.
just based on the fact that yellow perch are more of a northern species, I would like to believe it's going to be bigger than Georgia. I'm going to go with a 3 pound, 5 ounce. I have no idea, dude.
Well, it's 3.75 pounds.
Okay, so 3 pound, like 12 ounces, basically.
Yeah, 3.12 ounces.
Woo! Man, that's such. How long did it say? How long it was?
No, it was 1947, so they might not have a length on it. I just looked up the.
I wonder how. Yeah, all those. It's always funny when there's these like super old, records. It's like how accurate were the scales compared to like modern
Yeah,
scales? Like it could have been bigger than that for all we know. But
yeah.
either way, if we're basing it off of the fish that we just talked about, that was a 16 incher. So it's safe to say that a 3 pound, 3.75 pound yellow perch was north of 16 or 17 inches. Which, when you think about like a 17-inch bass, just picture that being a perch. Isn't that just
I, I I
bonkers?
I caught a couple days ago. I weighed it. I caught an 18 and a quarter inch spotted bass. It weighed 3 pounds even.
That's a nice
Like
one.
how in the yellow perch? Wait, I don't even know how one could weigh that much. That's crazy.
It would basically just be like a walleye. I mean, it would look like
Yeah.
a walleye, except it's just much cooler looking with the colors. That's awesome.
The Tennessee state record was caught in 2019, and I lived here when it was caught. It's actually 30 minutes from my house where it was caught. I remember when it happened. 2 pounds 5 ounces.
What a dink.
Yeah, wimpy little thing. Come on, Georgia's got a bigger state record than Tennessee. Come on. Anyhow, I thought that was interesting. So that's the kind of stuff. If you're new to this podcast, and most of y'all probably are, that's the kind of stuff we're going to cover. So if you have a way to, if you see something that's interesting in the pan fishing world, you can email us or send it in. I try to check most of my social media stuff. I don't check everything, but you can try to find out. But something you can do, you can be a part of the show, and that is we are going to take a few questions and comments from each episode. And I think the first episode we had like 5,000 views. I think we had like 4,000 views on our last one, and so there's several people watching, and I'm sure we had a bunch of comments. I didn't read through them all. Do we have a lot of comments and questions?
There was honestly, I think we could do better. I think that we could get
Ah,
more questions, people.
come on,
So
people.
make sure to ask questions. That being said, a decent amount of engagement. So thank you for everyone that was commenting. But definitely make sure to ask questions if you have any, or if you just want to hear us like talk about a random subject, like put something out there that's like interesting and it gives us things to talk about. But if you're ready, John, I've got the questions here. I picked them out this time, which means that you have to pick them out next time. So I'm hopeful that people like 1,000 comments come in, so you can just sit there and read for hours.
All right, sounds good. Ethan's got the comments and our questions, and next week or next month, I will pick them out, which will be off this episode that you're watching. So be sure and comment or put your question or comment, and we'll pick a few. So Ethan, what you got for us?
All right, first question. This is from Joe Parker 347. Question: have either of y'all used a blade bait for white bass / hybrids? My uncle turned me on to them last year. When they're biting, we do really well with them on the Cumberland River at the mouths of creeks. Even caught 2 on the same lure a few months ago. Can't wait for more podcasts. Keep it up. First and foremost, Joe, thank you for the nice comment and the nice words there. As far as it goes for me, I'm just going to kick it off if that's okay. I don't know that I ever have. This question was interesting to me because I used to fish for white bass and hybrids all the time growing up in Kansas. And a lot of that was on spoons, like big, heavy spoons, fishing deep water. But a good bit of it was on like top water, maybe some fish on some crankbaits, that sort of thing. But, I don't know that I ever did like a chatterbait or anything like that. But it does not surprise me that it's effective. So I appreciate you sharing that. What about you, John?
I don't know if he means blade baits like bladed jigs. I think he's talking about blade
Oh,
baits like
oh, you talk. Yeah.
blade with like 2 treble hooks.
Oh, yeah. When you said, yeah, I'm just dumb. Sorry, guys. I'm dumb. Blade bait. So you're probably thinking, yeah, like still same answer. No.
I have some, and it's actually a lot of people around here use those.
Okay. Well, it's just me now, but John should be back momentarily. At this moment in time, I would like to say if you would have any interest in sponsoring this show, make sure to reach out. We would love to have a show sponsor And I got to say, John just mentioned that we've got 4,000 to 5,000 people watching and engaging each episode. So the first question is from a at Joe Parker 347. Question: have either of y'all used a blade bait for white bass/hybrids? My uncle turned me onto them last year. When they're biting, we do really well with them on the Cumberland River at the mouths of creeks. Even caught 2 on the same lure a few months ago. Can't wait for more podcasts. Keep it up. So first off, thank you, Joe. Secondly, I read this as bladed jigs at first, and I was a little confused, but now I see that it was blade baits. So same answer still applies. I grew up in Kansas. I fished for white bass and wipers or hybrids a lot. Most of my fishing time with them would actually be with a lot of spoons, some crankbaits, some top waters. But I can't say that I've ever actually used like a little blade bait. So I feel like those little blade baits, they're becoming quite popular, it seems like these days. They've kind of had like a resurgence in the fishing industry. The one that always stands out in my head when I think about them though is those little is it called like a cicada? It's like a
Yeah.
little cheap, like old school lure. But I definitely could see how that would be super effective for them. I can't believe that I've never tried one though.
A lot of people around here have told me about them and they use them, and I've seen them, especially it's like a cold water technique for bass fishing. But I have some, and I've never really fished with them, but I've been with guys and seen them catch white bass and multi-species fishing below some dams, and they're like showing me to like kind of just drop it down and jerk it up, let it drop, jerk it up. I'm always afraid I'm going to snag, and I know you do get snagged a lot. I think it's probably better out of more of like out of a boat type lure, but out of a kayak and stuff. So no, I've not, but it's one of those things I've seen it work, and I guess I need to give it more attention and learn how to use it.
Yep. Don't we all? All right. The next comment is from at Calamaco. I don't know if I read that right or not, but either way, have you guys ever caught a crappie on a 7.5 inch curly tail worm? I might be late to the game, but I was so surprised my Texas rig got absolutely choked by a crappie. All right, John, have you ever caught a crappie on a 7.5 inch worm?
I don't think I've ever used a 7.5 inch worm, but I have caught crappie on lots of different lures. It's kind of surprising. The craziest thing I ever caught a crappie on was night crawlers on the bottom. That
Hmm.
was surprising to me. But
Yeah, I feel like
yeah,
you can catch anything on a night crawler, but when it's sitting on the bottom, that definitely surprises me. Like I feel like a crappie very rarely feeds off the bottom, so that's wild.
I've caught them on crib coppers and different bass lures. What did I caught one in a tournament? I thought for sure it was a bass. It was like a 14-inch crappie. I think it was on a yum dinger or something like that.
Yeah, and that's kind of the reason I actually asked the question is because the 7.5 inch worm, I can't say that I've caught a crappie on a 7.5 inch worm, but I don't, again, like you, John, I don't know the last time I fished with something quite like that. But I thought it was interesting because it really makes me think about all the random things that I have caught crappie on. And, I feel like it's a fish that they're very finicky. They're an interesting fish, but when they're aggressive, you might just catch them on just about anything. And I feel like I probably caught one on like a skirted bass jig before, which is kind of bonkers. I feel like you'd kind of take its lips off with something that heavy, but they're a cool fish. I thought that was an interesting question, and good for you for catching a crappie on a big old worm like that.
Yes.
All right, last question. Now, as a quick reminder, quick shout out, make sure to drop questions below because I'm looking forward to answering more in the future. This one comes from Tanner Haddock 311. All right. Also, I want a video of you playing some pickup, John. Start a series of you whooping other fishing YouTubers. Rudd first. Ha ha. Yeah, it's not a question, but it made me think that we need a challenge because I absolutely volunteer myself to take you on one-on-one, and you are not going to beat me. Let's just start the smack talk now,
Oh
baby.
yeah, yeah. We gotta have a whole episode where we just go to a park, like all serious, and just like
Yeah, we
play
all
one
get
on
injured.
one. I actually, I got invited to play in a pickup game, but I'll be gone. I was so aggravated because I haven't played basketball, and I probably haven't played since I coached last year. Like, and that's probably longest I've gone without playing basketball. I bet it's been 6 months or more without
Yeah.
actually like. Yeah, and I feel bad about it too.
I feel like it's just one of those things for me that's like I love basketball so much. It's such a fun sport to play. It's such a good exercise, but it's also one of those things where it's like every guy age from like 28 to 35, it's just a ticking time bomb of what are you going to injure and like how bad will it be? Is it going to be an ACL? Is it going to
Yeah.
be an Achilles? What will it be? And so I'm just like, I don't know. Part of me just doesn't want to do it anymore because I really just know I'm gonna break something. Something bad will happen to me.
My brother messaged me today. He played at church last night. He said first rebound. He sent me a picture of his ankle. It was just black and blue. I
Oh,
was like, "Yep." I don't miss doing that. I rolled my. I had bad problems rolling my ankles in high school. And then I did it a bunch playing pickup games and stuff. Yeah, that's some bad memories there. Just can't walk for like 3 days. But yeah, basketball is I can't wait to watch it or I've been watching it. March Madness is here. There's already been some really good games, and I'm really looking forward to the college basketball tournament. And I really look forward to the NBA playoffs. Like I know a lot of people don't like it, but man, it's good basketball.
right on. Well, I thought that was an interesting one, and I thought it was funny. So that wraps up the question section or the comment section of today's podcast. So what do we got next, John?
We're gonna go ahead and go into what our last fish was that we caught and what we caught it on. Now, I said that I had a really good February, but I could remember the last fish I caught because it was 2 days ago.
Mhm.
You want me to do mine first? Yeah, I'll go ahead and do mine first and
Do it.
give you a little recap what was happening. So, I caught February. I caught a bunch of different species. I caught yellow bass, caught white bass, I caught largemouth off the. I had a day where I showed up to a spot on the bank, and it was just after it rained in this little creek channel. I caught 9 bass on a chatterbait in 20 minutes, and 2 of them were like 2.5 pounders. It was crazy. I was like, "What in the world?" Because we had some warm rain come in, the water had come up in this little creek channel, and then so Saturday, which this we're recording this on Monday, so 2 days ago, I entered a kayak tournament, and it was on it was on Lake Chickamauga, which is like pretty close to me. I pre-fished there, and I caught a bunch of little fish. Then it got cold. Tournament day, I show up, and I struggled to catch 5 fish all day.
Hmm.
But the last fish I caught was the biggest. I was throwing a crankbait. It was a fritz side.
Hmm.
I think it was a shallow diving fritz side, and I caught a 15.5 inch largemouth to get my 5th keeper for the tournament. Now the tournament I was in 3 tournaments. It was kind of weird. There was one that was a native tournament that was like you could as many fish as you can catch over 14 inches. It was unlimited. Whoever could catch the most. I caught 3 over 14, so I wasn't too happy. Then one was a 5 limit, and then one was a 3 limit, and I got like I don't remember what my placement was, but it was just like I
Yeah.
hate just getting like it's just like it was the top half, but not in the like top of it. So it was like it was a tough day of fishing. But yeah, so I've been catching some bass more, and now that we're going into March, I'll probably fish for them a little bit more. But yeah, that was my last thing. My last fish was a largemouth.
Well, did you say that you caught some perch while you were
Oh
doing
yeah,
that?
so in the tournament though, I caught 3 yellow perch. And one of them, two were on a crankbait on that fritz side, and one was on a underspin. And one of them though, I caught it, and the water was real clear where we were fishing, and this big largemouth followed it in. I thought he was going to come up and like hit it. I was like, oh, he came up for a second, and then he just went away.
Hmm.
Um, so I was like, what if I caught a huge one? But in that tournament, a guy caught a 24-inch largemouth. A guy caught a
Shit.
23.5 inch. So I was not anywhere close to some of the big ones. But
Man,
the guy that caught a
24.
24-inch was he only caught 2 fish all day. One was 24, one was like a 12. That's the only 2 fish he caught all day. It's crazy. But he
That's
got
funny how
$1,000 because it was $1,000 big bass hour. So if
nice.
you had the biggest bass in that hour, you get $1,000. So yeah, I
Cool.
got nothing. I spent $250 in tournament fees and got nothing
So
from it.
that hour, how does that work with kayak tournaments? Because don't you like log them? So do you, if I caught it the first hour of the tournament, could you just wait to log it
No,
until?
everything's time stamped on your picture that you take.
Okay, that makes sense. Um, well, that's cool. Good for him. I gotta say, a 24-incher this time of year has got to be obviously pre-spawn and chunky and fat as heck.
It
I wonder
was
what a fish like that
huge.
weighed. I bet
Yeah.
that thing was what, 8 pounds? I mean, I have
I
no
think
idea.
I think he said 9 pounds. It was
8 pounds.
big. Yeah.
Well, that is a solid fish. Good for that guy. Okay, last fish for me. So, I technically almost could have said that this morning I caught a fish, but it shook its head right at the bank. And it was a dinky largemouth bass. But I will go ahead and tell that story anyways. Um, Today, I was off work and I was in charge of watching the boys. And so my wife and I actually both went to a park with the boys. And naturally, when I go to parks these days, I'm always, looking out on the maps to see if there's any water. And so I brought the fishing pole, and I got a few minutes to fish. And I was throwing just some ultralight stuff, and I did hook a bass. So even though it was on a Donkey Tail Junior from Mule, but even though I did not catch that fish, you know what's beautiful about it, John? The best part is it's a new place. I've never fished there before, and it validated that there are fish in that pond. It's a place that I will return in the future, and I will get my redemption.
Yeah.
That all being said, the last fish that I actually landed comes a few days ago. I've been working on a video that's about to release sooner than later, and it's kind of like a deep dive on the slip float rig. I've had several people request that I make a video like about all how I tie it, all the details, and so I'm working on that. And I wanted to finish it by going out and catching a few fish on it. So I, after quite a bit of time of work, like trying, it was really windy. It was 16-mile-an-hour wind, and I was on the bank, and that is not the right conditions to fish a slip float rig. Like that's kind of a calm, day rig. Like you want to use those when it's relatively like no wind. But I was able to make it work, and I ended up catching a bluegill, and I did not expect that actually. I was expecting perch and bass maybe, but a pretty nice bluegill came up and walloped it. So that was a nice, pleasant surprise, and it was a good way to end my day. So yeah, the water temperatures are warming, so my guess is things are going to change quite a lot over the next 30 or 40 days.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing, and that's what I love to see, the transformation from like usually March the 1st and like April the 1st. Like it depends. Sometimes it's kind of colder, but like usually it's such a big difference. And that might as well lead into my lure for March, because so this year was a leap year, and I got to go fishing with my buddy Alex Rudd on the leap year day, February 29th, which is kind of weird. Um, and I was thinking to myself, last leap year, 4 years ago, I would have never been kayaking in February. Like I wouldn't even have thought to try to like go down. We kayaked a river, like a smaller river. But the more and more I've been learning about fishing, and and the more I just enjoy going down skinny rivers, the more I just want to do it, even if the bite's not that great. Well, we floated 6 miles. It was kind of quick because the water was moving. I caught 4 spotted bass, all on a spinnerbait,
Nice.
and that's my lure I'm going to highlight for March. This is one of my. It's this is a bass lure. It's not really a multi-species thing, but dude, bass start munching. A lot of times in March and April, where they just will start eating like crazy. The 4 fish I caught were all spotted bass. Two of them were over eight. Two of them were 18 inches, and two were like, well, one was 17, one was 16, and they were all pretty thick. Two of them were 3 pounds. Like these were good quality bites. for a small. This is like a creek slash river that we were kayaking, and we had to fish really slow to get those bites. I could have easily gone through there and not got a bite if I hadn't really slowed down the spinnerbait. But most of the time here in the next few weeks for around us, they ought to be eating this really good in rivers and creeks and of course lakes stuff like that. But yeah, I love a spinnerbait, and a lot of times you cast it out and they're like on the bank, but I have to train myself. You can't always, like, sometimes I'm like expecting them. You hit that bank and they're just like bam on it. Well,
Hmm.
you can't always expect that because sometimes they're not. What we were finding was I was throwing it and it was probably hitting 8 or 10 feet off the bank before they would hit. And then I did a tournament last year where I couldn't get a bite on the bank, but every tree that was sticking out, they were on the end of the trees.
Hmm.
But spinnerbait is such a good lure. It catches good quality fish. It's one that I've really learned like what rod and reel that I want to use. I'm still learning really, but I threw them on a spinning rod, and I caught tons of fish. But once I started using bait casters, it's really helped me
Oh yeah.
help me dial in a spinnerbait and how to use it and just being more efficient, getting better hook sets, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. It's like I feel like I can't even imagine throwing a spinnerbait on a spinning outfit at this point in time. Like to me, for me, it's like a 6'10". Just usually in the kayak, I like to use a little bit. I come down a couple inches on rod lengths. If you would have asked me this 10 years ago in a bass boat, I would have probably said like, oh, 7 foot or 7'2". But 6'10" medium heavy has always been good to me for something like a spinnerbait. So what do you throw on these days? Like, what's your rod look like right now?
I'm still going back and forth, but I actually really like it's a 7.2, and that's usually long for me, but it's 7.2 medium.
Okay.
Um, Shimano is it Intensa? No,
Sounds
I think
right.
so. It's
That
just, it's
sounds
a
right.
it's like a $200 rod, and
Oh,
I
wow.
bought it specifically for spinnerbait fishing, and it is a little limber, but I have a problem. I've had a problem jerking too soon when you get a
Okay.
spinnerbait
Yeah.
bite.
Let them kind of mouth it a little
So
bit.
this really lets them eat it, and
Hmm.
then you can get a good hook set into them. Where it,
That's
and
good.
I've been throwing about 16-pound fluoro, 14 to 16. And then the reel, I don't. It depends on how fast you use it, but I think the reel I got on there is like a 7.3 to 1.
Yeah.
And some people like a little slower, but you can kind of manipulate it how you want.
Yeah, I feel like I like that like more of a 6'10" length, and it's really at the end of the day 6'10" versus 7'2". It's a matter of 4 inches, but I feel like that 6'10" has been so good to me in the kayak. Just being close quarters a lot of times around docks or in the river. There's a lot of trees and stuff. Just a slightly shorter length allows me to kind of precisely toss that thing up against trees and stuff or up against the bank like you were talking about. The other thing that you mentioned that stood out to me is fish biting like 8 feet off the bank, and how historically you catch a lot of fish right when it hits the water and that sort of thing. I always wonder how far do these bass like follow a bait? Because I feel like there's definitely been times for me where it's like all my fish are coming like the second it hits the water, and then there's a fish that it took, it's 10 foot. And it's like the question in my head is, was that fish sitting on the bank too, but he just wanted to get a better look at it, or he missed it when it first hit and then he's chased it and tracked it? I don't know that I'll ever know the answer. I'm never going to probably use all the forward facing sonar to be able to see all this, but it's interesting to me.
Yeah, we were talking about the same thing, and I think that the fish were sitting off the bank. This is just my theory, and because everything we caught were in deeper holes,
Yeah.
and I don't think they were like hugging the bank. I think they were kind of just sitting on the bottom. Because at the first half of the trip, I was I noticed I was reeling fast, and I didn't catch anything. Alex caught 3, and I'm like, how did he catch 3? And then I started thinking about it, and then I really slowed down my retrieve, and I ended up catching 4 on the second part of the trip, and I think he caught
Yeah.
1 or 2. So like I'm like, wow, that made a huge difference.
Yeah,
Um,
that's where you mentioned your 7 3 to 1 reel. It's like, if you don't have the discipline and you struggle, listeners, if you struggle with like slowing yourself down, in situations like that, that's where like a slower gear ratio reel can help. I know that I struggle with it, and I probably just need to sometimes use a slower gear ratio reel because I find that I'll just kind of stop thinking about it, and my natural like
Yeah.
thing is to reel fast, right? Is to keep that bait moving, because I'm just trying to cover water and everything. But then this time of year, that water temperature might be pretty low, and those fish might be reacting better to that slower crawl, like you were talking about, or it just might be a depth thing. Like slower
Mhm.
crawl is going to allow that bait to get down there deeper. So that's where like a slower gear ratio can help people that don't have as much discipline. Um, Either way, no, that's great. So are you going to tell me then your goal for March is you're going to kind of hammer some fish on the spinnerbait? Is that fair to assume?
So
Or at
my goal
least-
for March is to go to a national kayak championship and
Woo.
win it on a spinnerbait in Oklahoma. So you heard it here. We'll find out next week or next month. I'll give the report. I'll tell you what I did. But no, so I wanted to talk about this real quick. And so I'm going to fish in the Bassmaster Kayak Championship in Oklahoma, March the 20th and 21st. And I'll be meeting up with several other guys. I'm going to try to get some of these other guys in the video because almost all the guys I'm staying with, there's like 5 or 6. They're all either YouTubers or like big social media, like on TikTok or on Instagram, TikTok, stuff like that. But the thing is, they're all really good fishermen. Like everybody I'm staying with, like I'm going to try. My goal is not to be the worst guy in the house staying at, but I'm excited about fishing. It's a big tournament. It costs a lot of money. It's going to be expensive to get the house and everything that we're doing. Um, Thankfully, my YouTube revenue has been decent, so I'm not going into debt hopefully to go do this. I have. I'm really excited about just fishing somewhere totally new, and I love 2-day tournaments. And Oklahoma is really known for like spinnerbait fishing too. So if it works out, hopefully I'll be catching a bunch on a spinnerbait out there.
I would love that. Well, I tell you what, John, I'm not one to put my birthday out there for the world, but just in this case, my birthday is March 19th. And all I want for my birthday now is for you to win this tournament and come back and have a show celebrating, maybe a trophies in the background. So
Oh,
that's what I'm looking for. That's what I want for my birthday. Do not fail me. The second thing I'll say is, this show does not currently have a show sponsor. And John just mentioned that he is incurring a lot of costs to go down there and fish this tournament. All I'm saying, shameless plug, if you want to sponsor this show, feel free to cover John's cost for the tournament, and we'll give you a nice big shout out
oh,
in April's episode. Um, I'm going to
right.
transition now into kind of my plans for March, what I'm excited about, what I expect to catch some fish on. And this is where I was thinking about this right before we started recording. You heard my brain kind of trying to figure out what exactly I'll be doing. Um, I would say March is kind of like this weird month where the fishing should get pretty good and there should be a lot of fish willing to bite, but it's very conditional. It's very much dependent on what kind of water temperatures we get to. And it's hard to say, we could get a cold stretch for the next 25 days and we may
Mhm.
not, they may not really heat up and fire up, or it could warm up quick and all of a sudden I could be catching fish with pretty aggressive, faster retrieves. So I think what I'm going to stick with as far as like what I expect to catch fish on is I've already got one rigged up. So I just grabbed this. It's just a little micro drop shot. Now I could have picked up, ooh, sorry, smacked my mic. I could have picked up a big drop shot too, but in this case, I'm going micro drop shot. And the idea is still some multi-species, definitely some perch. I would like to catch, I did this once last year. I went to a location where I typically go bass fishing, and I kind of went into a different area, a different stretch that I'm used to. And I started marking some fish on my fish finder, and I started to catch some yellow perch on a jig, a small jig. And I think when I look back at that spot and think back to that spot, I feel like a little micro drop shot should work really effectively if the water conditions are right. So personally, I want to go back there and I want to validate that those yellow perch are there year in and year out. I'm hoping it wasn't just a fluke last year. So fingers crossed, I can put the micro drop shot to work on some form of species. But specifically, if I can go back there and catch some more yellow perch, I think that would be great. Otherwise, though, I think I'm just going to try to stay versatile and just see what the month of March brings me, because it very much depends on what the weather blesses us with.
Yeah, I was we were talking before the show started, and my last fish I'll talk about is white bass, and there was dogwood trees blooming in this little area where I had to go pick up something for my taxes. I looked up and I was like, it's white bass time. We've already had some white bass in the area, but this is really, and a lot of people like around the country, this is the time white bass really start running and moving. And if that's something that you chase, this is the time to go out there and fish those creek mouths and off the rivers, or go find them, because this is where they usually get thick. And it's definitely something I will try to target. Probably here this week. There's a couple places I might try to get my kayak to and just see if they're there. But usually when the white bass start running, the largemouth and the spots and the smallmouth and pretty much every bluegill all get active. That's why I love about the weather changes. Spring's my favorite time of year. There's so much happening going on, as long as the weather stays stable. If we get floods, a lot of times we get rain and we'll just get floods and everything's like all messed up. But if the weather stays stable, they start staying warm, it starts getting really fun, and videos for me start getting a lot easier to make. And that's what I make my living off of. And I got a video coming out. I kind of just recap everything, like what do I do? I'm like, and I kind of go into like, this is my job. Like I have to catch fish and make videos to make money and make a living, unless more sponsors want to come on board. But no, but it makes my
catching fish, man. So it's like even the sponsors are contingent on you making quality content.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Entails quality fish. So, at the end of the day, you got to catch fish to survive, my friend.
And that's what I was saying about March. March makes my job so much easier usually.
Yeah.
I get to just have fun, relax, and go out there and do it. But that's about all I got. Ethan, you got anything before we end here?
I don't think so. I guess I'll just end it by saying, these first couple episodes, it's like I haven't really felt like I've been able to fish as much as I typically would. And it's just like mostly a life stage thing, just some things going on in my life outside of fishing and outside of YouTube. However, I'm going to end it with just a ton of optimism. I think it's just going to get better and better as time goes on. I think next month, hopefully I'll have a few more things to report. And I think the following months will just get better. I specifically think like April, May should be kind of highlight months for me. I cannot wait for the water temperatures to be ticking into like the 60-degree range, and then just everything just firing up. But for the time being, I'm going to make the most of our situation, and hopefully I can get out and fish a few times between now and our next episode.
All right. So our goals for this month, Ethan's the micro drop shot and just to get out and catch fish. Mine's going to be kind of targets of white bass, but really I'm going to put a lot of emphasis into my kayak championship. I'm going to probably do several days of pre-fishing and just really take a lot of effort into this tournament. So it's kind of a big thing for me. But appreciate everybody watching, and you've been listening to the Whatever's Biting podcast. Hope you can get out there and catch whatever's biting.